Good evening. Welcome to Attica Night Talk. Let's talk about a hot topic today, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This has caused a huge commotion around the world. Many people are confused about whether Hamas is a resistance group or a terrorist group, and whether the peace talks are real or fake. In fact, it's not complicated at all. What's complicated is human nature. To see through it, you have to scrape off the thick layer of oil paint on some people's faces and see what's beneath the skin. First, we need to figure out what kind of organization Hamas is. Many people say it is a representation of the Palestinians for the purpose of establishing a state. This is only half right, and the insignificant half. To understand an organization, don't listen to what it says today. Look at what it's written on paper and engraved in its bones. The roots of Hamas are its founding charter of 1988. It clearly states that Hamas is a branch of the Palestinian Muslim Brotherhood. What kind of organization the Muslim Brotherhood is, everyone knows. It is not pursuing a nation-state, but a transnational, fundamentalist Islamic world. So the essence of Hamas is not nationalism, but religious extremism. What is its goal? The preamble of the charter quotes the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam destroys it. Article 6 of the charter says its goal is to raise the banner of Allah in every inch of Palestinian land. This is not a border dispute. It is a life and death struggle. What means does it use? Article 13 of the Charter is resolute. There is no alternative to jihad to solve the Palestinian problem. All initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are a waste of time. People tell you in black and white that I don't want to talk to you at all. I'm going to kill you with violence. What's more crucial is that the Charter is full of blatant anti-human racism. Article 7 of the Charter quotes a hadith saying, "The day of judgment will not come until the Muslims fight the Jews and kill them." Article 22 is a direct copy of the conspiracy theory from the Zion Presbyterian Chronicle, claiming that the Jews controlled the world media, instigated the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution, and the two world wars, and that all the bad things in the world were done by the Jews. By this point, anyone with normal sense should understand that this is an organization with the aim of genocide. It is fundamentally different from the secular national liberation movement of the PLO. Some would say, no, Hamas issued a new document in 2017 that softened its stance by saying it was willing to accept a Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders. That's where it is most cunning. This new document, first of all, does not repel the 1988 Charter. It is merely a supplement. The Hamas leadership itself admits that it dares not amend the Charter for fear of being seen as having abandoned its fundamental principles. Second, and most crucially, it accepts the 1967 borders but never recognizes Israel's right to exist. What does that mean? This is a typical phase victory strategy. Today I'll take a spot and build it into a base to attack you. And tomorrow I'll continue to liberate the rest of the land until you're completely wiped off the map. This is not an olive branch of peace at all. It is a carefully painted skin specifically designed to deceive the naive Westerners. A face to the believers within, shouting jihad and destruction. Another face to the international community talking about borders and occupation. This is not evolution. This is outright strategic deception. Having seen through the essence of Hamas, let's look at the backers behind it. Hamas doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's an agent. It has two main sponsors. One is Qatar and one is Iran. Iran's role is straightforward, giving weapons, training, ideological support, and linking groups like Hamas and Hezbollah in Lebanon into an anti-Israel proxy network. The former Hamas leader Hania also died in Tehran, showing how close the relationship is. Qatar's role is much more complex and hypocritical. It has provided Hamas with more than $1.8 billion in funds, much of which was used to dig tunnels and buy weapons. On the other hand, it has provided the Hamas leadership with luxurious offices and safe shelters in Doha. In this way, it has set fires and sold fire extinguishers, taking advantage of both ends and turning geopolitics into business. Even more tragically, this dangerous game has been tacitly approved by Israel and the United States for a long time. The Netanyahu government of Israel had a very stupid idea at the time that supporting Hamas in Gaza could contain Fatah in the West Bank and divide the Palestinians forever, thus making it impossible to build a state. It was a self-righteous self-respect for the enemy, thinking that a hungry wolf could be managed as a watchdog. As a result, this illusion of a controlled conflict eventually gave rise to the disaster of October 7th, 2023. This is a painful lesson. In the face of an ideological organization whose ultimate goal is to destroy you, any appeasement and compromise is adding bricks to one's own destruction. Having understood these 2 points, the so-called peace talks now have become a farce. Recently, the United States has launched the Trump Plan, which is full of 20 articles. The content looks very comprehensive. Ceasefire, release, aid, reconstruction, and, at the end, a technocratic transitional government. Many countries around the world expressed their support and made a big fuss. The most crucial part of the plan is the demand for Hamas to be completely disarmed. For an organization like Hamas, weapons are its lifeline. Handing over weapons is equivalent to disarming and committing suicide. So Hamas' response is to drag. It put on a willingness to talk and welcomed the parts of the plan that were in its favor, such as prisoner swaps and ceasefires. For its unfavorable parts, such as disarming, it says, these issues need further discussion. In this way, it portrays itself as a constructive negotiator, passing the ball to Israel. At the same time, it takes advantage of the respite from the ceasefire to wait for the next opportunity. So this peace plan was not intended to achieve peace from the very beginning, but to expose lies. It is like a magic mirror, and once the mirror of disarmament is placed, Hamas' disguise cannot be held back. By using delaying tactics to avoid the core issue, it proves that it has no intention of achieving permanent peace at all. The most ridiculous is the performance of those white leftists in the Western world. Protests in support of Palestine have been surging on the university campuses they control. They demanded that schools be divested from Israel, boycotted Israel's academic institutions, and defined Israel's actions as genocide. On October 7th, a day commemorating the massacre, they were able to organize a march to glorify the terrorist attack as resistance. Behind this inversion of right and wrong is a rigid and stupid theory at work, known as post-colonial theory. This theory was fabricated in the ivory tower by Western leftists. It crudely simplifies the complex history of the world into a story of binary opposition. On one side are Western, white colonizers who are inherently evil. On the other side are non-Western, colored colonizers who are always just. In this play, Israel is forcibly labeled as settled colonialism and depicted as a European stronghold in the Middle East. So all the actions of the Palestinians, no matter how brutal they are interpreted as just resistance. This theory completely disregards history. It disregards the 3,000-year historical roots of the Jewish people in this land and describes the Jews as foreign invaders. It ignores the fact that more than half of Israel's Jews are Middle Eastern refugees who have been expelled from Arab countries. It disregards the history of Arab and Islamic empires' expansion and conquest, and hypocritically puts all the colonial charges on the West. This creates a huge paradox. A group of progressive young people who enjoy freedom, democracy, and secular life in the West, who support women's rights, gay rights, and individual freedoms. But they are fanatically supporting Hamas, an extremely conservative group that wants to establish theocratic rule, regards women as second-class citizens, and throws homosexuals off tall buildings. This kind of schizophrenia is an inevitable consequence of their theoretical logic. Because on the scale of the colonizer and the colonizer, all values can be sacrificed. The so-called anti-colonial pioneers have forced a theory invented in the Western greenhouse onto a complex Middle East conflict that they do not understand at all, erasing the true history and eliminating the complex human nature, all for the sake of satisfying their own sense of moral superiority. So, the conclusion is simple. In an organization that writes killing Jews into a charter is unlikely to bring about real peace. Any agreement that does not completely disarm Hamas and eradicate its extremist ideology is not peace. It is merely a halftime break before a greater massacre. And the white left who advocate for Hamas in the West, with their kindness and ignorance, are becoming the best umbrella of terrorism. Instead of helping the Palestinian people, they have tied them to the cancer of Hamas, leaving them trapped in a cycle of violence and hatred forever. Well, that's all for today's Attica Night Talk. Thank you for watching. See you next time.